Thanksgiving has always been a weird time for me. I'm Jason, 29, and if you asked me a decade ago, I would have said I was close with my family. I mean, I was the kid who stayed behind when my mom passed, so I could help take care of everything: paperwork, funeral arrangements, even my younger sister, Melissa, who was still in high school at the time. My dad wasn't exactly emotionally present, and after mom passed, it was like someone flipped a switch in him. He got colder. Not abusive or anything like that, just indifferent. Like he was going through the motions until he could clock out. Still, I stayed. I paused college for a year and took on 2 part-time jobs to keep us afloat while he grieved. I thought it would bring us closer, maybe give us a sense of unity. But over time, it became clear I was more of a placeholder than a person in that house. Fast forward to now. I live in another state, decent job, quiet apartment. I keep to myself, but I send money home every month. I cover part of the mortgage because, well, Dad's not great with money and Melissa's in med school. No one really asked me to. Dad kind of just expected it. One month, I noticed the mortgage was 2 weeks late and called him. He said, "Yeah, I figured you'd get around to it." No thanks, no apology. That's when the first crack formed, I think. Still, I told myself, it's family. You don't just walk away. But something about this Thanksgiving felt different. It was the first time I wasn't invited. Usually I got a text, a phone call, some kind of passive hope to see you there from Melissa or my stepmom. Karen, yes, that's her real name. But this year? Nothing. Silence. I figured maybe they assumed I was coming anyway, so I bought my ticket and packed a small bag. I even got Karen one of those expensive candles she always fawns over, the kind I can't afford without cringing at the price tag. I wanted to believe that if I showed up, everything would be okay. That maybe they'd missed me, even if they didn't say it. The flight landed early Thanksgiving morning. I didn't bother with an Uber. I rented a car so I wouldn't be a burden. I remember pulling into the driveway and seeing all the cars lined up already. Cousins, aunts, people I hadn't seen in years. The house looked warm, windows glowing, smells of turkey and spices leaking through the cracks. For a second, standing on that porch, I felt nostalgic. Like maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe it was just a miscommunication. Then the door opened. My dad stood there, holding the knob like he didn't know what to do with it. He was dressed nice, freshly shaved, sweater over collared shirt. He looked surprised, but not in the good way. It wasn't, "Jason, hey." It was like I'd just shown up uninvited to a stranger's party. "There's no seat for you this year," he said. Just like that. Flat voice. "It's just family tonight." I blinked. Thought maybe he was joking, that he'd pull me into one of those awkward dad hugs a second later. But he didn't move. Just stood there, blocking the entryway. "Right?" I said after a long pause. "Got it." He didn't try to explain. I didn't ask. I turned around, walked back to the car, and drove away. I don't remember where I went first, maybe a gas station or a quiet parking lot. I know I sat there for a while, staring at the dashboard. I wasn't even angry at first. Just numb. The kind of numb that makes your ears ring and your chest feel like a vacuum. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Melissa. "Don't take it personally. You always make things weird." That was when something inside me snapped, not in a rage kind of way, but like a heavy beam finally collapsing after years of quiet strain. I stared at her message, reread it 3 or 4 times, then opened the banking app on my phone. I had been sending $1,200 a month for over 2 years. That month's mortgage was due on the 25th, tomorrow, but it hadn't been processed yet. I'd scheduled the payment early while I was booking flights. I could still reverse it. I stared at the little "cancel transfer" button for a good 30 seconds. Then I tapped it. Then I moved the funds back into my personal savings. That night, I ordered room service from a hotel 2 cities away. Slept like a baby for the first time in months. But the real storm hit the next morning. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. First it was Karen, missed call, voicemail. Then my dad. Then Melissa. Then Karen again. The group chat, which had been silent for weeks, suddenly exploded with messages. "Jason, did you cancel the mortgage payment? Call me now. This isn't funny. We're already getting a notice from the bank." Still, I didn't answer. I just sat there in that quiet hotel room, sipping burnt coffee from a paper cup, watching the fallout unfold. By mid-morning, they had moved from confusion to full-blown panic. I watched the group chat light up like a bonfire. Melissa demanding an explanation, Karen trying to guilt-trip me with passive-aggressive lines like, "We didn't mean to hurt your feelings," and my dad, Well, he just sent one sentence. You're blowing this way out of proportion. That one got to me more than I expected. Not the cruelty of it, but the complete lack of accountability. I'd been dismissed at the door of my own childhood home, told to my face that I wasn't family. And now I was the one being unreasonable? I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have a million things I wanted to say, but because I knew anything I said would be twisted. That's how it always went. If I explained my side, I was being dramatic. If I stayed quiet, I was being passive-aggressive. If I walked away, I was abandoning the family. No matter what I did, I was always the problem. So instead of answering, I forwarded the mortgage account details to their shared email, the same one I used to set up automatic payments 2 years ago. I included a polite note. Hi, effective immediately, I will no longer be covering the mortgage or any household expenses. The property is still in your names, and all future payments are your responsibility. Wishing you all the best, Jason. No emotion, no digs, just facts. I think that's what hit them hardest, my silence. Because when people like my family lose their punching bag, they don't know what to do with themselves. Melissa tried again later in the day, this time pretending she cared. Can we please just talk? I don't want to fight. She followed it up with, you know, Dad didn't mean what he said. It was a joke. But I knew better. My father doesn't joke. Not like that. Not ever. If he said there was no seat for me, he meant it. If Melissa said I made things weird, she meant that too. And the truth is, I think they've always felt that way. I didn't fit into their mold. I was quieter, more observant. I didn't laugh at their mean-spirited jokes or play along with their traditions that always revolved around drinking too much and rehashing the same stories about how great they all were. I used to think I was the odd one out. Now, I think I was just the only one who grew up. That evening, I turned off my phone and went for a walk through a little park near the hotel. Leaves were everywhere. Orange, red, brittle. Kids running, couples laughing. For a moment, I let myself feel it. The grief, the relief, the weight of everything I'd been carrying for years. It was weirdly peaceful, like I had finally set something down that was never mine to carry in the first place. But the peace didn't last long. The next day, I got a call from the bank. Apparently, with the payment reversed and no backup funds from my dad, the mortgage had officially entered default status. They hadn't missed just one payment either. My dad had apparently been relying on me so much that he hadn't put anything toward the house in over 3 months. He figured I had it covered. When the bank rep asked if I wanted to resume payments or refinance under my own name, I laughed, actually laughed, and politely declined. I knew what was coming next. Sure enough, within 2 days, Karen sent me a long email. It started off kind. Jason, I hope you're doing okay. I've been thinking a lot about what happened. Your father feels terrible. Then came the pivot. We're in a difficult position right now. The house is at risk, and it would really mean a lot if you could just cover this next payment while we figure things out. I didn't reply. Melissa texted again, this time angrier. So you're really just going to let the house go under? Are you serious right now? You're being petty. That one nearly made me respond. But I stopped myself. Instead, I screenshotted the message. Saved it in a little folder I'd started called Closure. Not out of spite, just as a reminder. A reminder of how they saw me. Not as a brother. Not as a son. Just as a line item on their balance sheet. By the end of that week, the group chat had gone quiet. Like a fire that finally ran out of fuel. But then came the voicemail. One I wasn't expecting. It was from my uncle. My mom's brother. I hadn't spoken to him in years. Not since her funeral. But his voice was calm, almost sad. Hey, Jason. I just heard about what happened. I don't know what they said to you, and I don't want to get involved in all that. But I want you to know, your mom would have been proud of you. Not just for helping out all these years, but for finally standing up for yourself. You didn't deserve how they treated you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I sat with that message for a long time. And that's when I made my decision. I wasn't just stepping back from them. I was stepping away for good. But just when I thought the worst of it was over, when I started to feel the edges of freedom for the first time in years, Melissa did something I didn't see coming. Something that dragged the entire mess into the public eye. And that was the moment everything changed. I found out through a friend from high school. She messaged me out of nowhere. Hey, weird question. Is everything okay with your family? Melissa's post seemed a lot. Confused, I opened Facebook. I hadn't used it in months, but I still had an account. Sure enough, right there on Melissa's profile was a long, dramatic post. The kind people write when they want sympathy but don't want to name names. It started off innocently enough. This year has been one of the hardest of my life. Watching my parents struggle, watching our childhood home fall into danger, and feeling helpless as someone we trusted turned their back on us. It's heartbreaking. Then it got worse. Sometimes people change. They forget where they came from. They become cold. They use money as a weapon. We've done everything we could to hold this family together, but some people just love tearing things down. She included a picture of the house, a throwback photo from some Christmas years ago. My mom was in it. So was I? I was maybe 17, holding Melissa's gift with a goofy grin on my face. Back when we still smiled for real. The comments? Brutal. Who would do that to their own family? Some people only care about money. You're better off without that kind of toxic energy. One person even wrote, cut them out. You don't need that negativity in your life. The irony hit like a brick. I didn't comment. I didn't defend myself. But I read every word. Every single word. And then something in me clicked. Not like before, not just a snap of frustration. This was different. It was clarity. Because up until that point, I still held on to this faint hope that maybe, just maybe, they didn't understand what they'd done. That maybe there was some miscommunication, some emotional blind spot. But no, they understood. They just didn't care. They were rewriting the story, and they were painting me as the villain. I wish I could say I cried, or that I threw my phone in a dramatic rage, but no. I just sat there, phone in hand, staring at the photo. My mom, me, Melissa, back when things were still simple. I didn't recognize that version of us anymore. Later that evening, I got a message from a cousin I hadn't heard from in years. Tim, the only one who never really fit into the family mold either. He messaged me privately. Hey man, I saw Melissa's post. I knew it was BS. Don't let it get to you. You did more for them than anyone else ever has. Then, almost like an afterthought, you still paying for their utilities? I stared at the message. Utilities. That's right. Electricity, water, internet. When mom got sick, I set up a bunch of those bills under my name. They were never changed. I'd completely forgotten. The monthly charges were so small compared to the mortgage, they barely registered. Auto-paid. Out of sight, out of mind. Until now. I opened the utility app. All the accounts were still active. Still billed to me. Still under my name. I checked the most recent invoice. The power bill alone was through the roof. Apparently someone had installed a hot tub. A hot tub. I stared at the screen, heart calm, fingers still. Then I clicked cancel service. One by one. Electric, gas, water, internet. And with every confirmation, I felt something inside me unclench. Not vengeance. Not anger. Just release. And here's the thing. I still didn't say a word to them. I didn't respond to Melissa's smear campaign. I didn't call my dad to warn him. I didn't even bother replying when Karen texted me the next morning saying the Wi-Fi was down and could I please look into it. Instead, I booked a weekend getaway. Cabin in the woods. No cell service. Just me, a stack of books, and a fireplace. When I came back, my phone was an explosion of notifications. Voicemails, missed calls, emails from the utility company. We've attempted to contact you regarding account closures. And finally, a text from my dad. No greeting. Just, what is going on? And right as I was considering whether I'd even reply, a screenshot came in from a different number. Someone had forwarded me Melissa's new Facebook post. And this one took it nuclear. Melissa's second post was less cryptic and far more desperate. Gone was the polished victim tone. This time, it was raw and impulsive, likely written in a fit of rage. I've kept quiet for too long. My brother has decided to completely cut us off. No warning, no explanation. First, he canceled the mortgage payment and nearly got our home taken. Then he shut off all the utilities while we were still living here. He didn't even tell us. Just flipped the switch and walked away. I don't know what kind of person does that to their own family, especially after everything we've done for him. She even posted a photo of the family sitting in the living room, bundled up in coats and blankets, with a caption that read, "No heat, no lights, but hey, at least he's got his peace, right?" And then, just to top it off, she tagged me. Full name. Public post. That was the first time they'd ever truly dragged me into the light. No more subtle jabs or whispered side eyes. This was a full-on call-out. My inbox flooded with messages. Some from extended relatives, others from strangers demanding to know how I could be so heartless. But you know what surprised me? Among all the noise, there were a few voices, quiet, but steady, that started pushing back. A former coworker commented, "Isn't Jason the one who supported your family financially for years?" A girl I dated briefly wrote, "He's the most responsible person I've ever met. If he walked away, there's probably a very good reason." And then Tim, my cousin, the only one who ever saw through the smoke, left the perfect comment. "Maybe ask yourself why your brother paid your bills, your mortgage, and kept your house running for 2 years, while being told to his face he wasn't part of the family. You don't get to throw someone away and still expect their loyalty." That comment alone got dozens of likes. More than Melissa's post. She deleted the whole thing less than an hour later. But the damage had already been done, to her image, sure, but more importantly, to their illusion. That carefully curated narrative they'd spent years building. The perfect family, the loyal daughter, the selfless father. It was cracking. And for the first time, other people were seeing the fractures I'd lived with for most of my adult life. A few days later, I got a call from the bank again. This time, not about the mortgage, that ship had already sailed, but about the utilities. Apparently, my dad had tried to reactivate the accounts and was confused why he couldn't. They needed authorization from the account holder. When they told him that was me, he apparently lost it. I could hear him yelling in the background while the rep calmly asked if I'd like to permanently close all associated services. I gave them verbal confirmation. Then I blocked the number. But they weren't done yet. That weekend, my dad showed up. Not metaphorically, literally. He stood outside my apartment building like some villain from a low-budget family drama. Arms crossed, jaw tight. He didn't buzz my unit. He waited until someone else walked out, then slipped in and pounded on my door like he owned the place. I answered it, not because I wanted to talk, but because I was done running. He looked older than I remembered, more tired. His clothes were wrinkled, hair uncombed, face drawn in tight lines. "Really?" he said, not even saying hello. "You're just going to let the family fall apart?" I stared at him for a long moment. "You mean the same family that told me I didn't have a seat at the table? That I make things weird?" "That family." He flinched, just slightly, but I saw it. "That was a mistake," he said. "We were upset. Karen said something, and it spiraled. You should have talked to me." I laughed, short and bitter. "You were at the door, Dad. You didn't stop it. You didn't say a word." He looked away, jaw clenching. Then he tried to shift tactics. "Look, the house is in trouble. Your sister's loan fell through. I'm trying to refinance, but without your name on the papers." "There it is," I interrupted. "You're not here for family. You're here for the house." Silence. He didn't deny it. "You think I'm heartless," I said. "But the truth is, I was the only one who ever showed up. I gave you years of support, financially, emotionally, and you never once said thank you. Never once acknowledged that I kept your life from falling apart." "I didn't ask you to," he muttered. "No," I agreed. "You didn't. You just expected it." Another beat of silence passed. Finally, he looked up and said, "So that's it? You're done?" I nodded. "I've been done. I just didn't know it until now." He stood there a moment longer, then stepped back. For a second, I thought he might say something human, something real. But all he said was, "You'll regret this." I closed the door, and I didn't open it again. A month passed, then two. The group chat went silent. The calls stopped. The drama faded like a bad dream, loud and vivid one moment, then distant and meaningless the next. I moved apartments. New city, new job, a clean break. Then, one afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. It was from the bank. Final notice of foreclosure. I didn't celebrate, but I didn't mourn either. Some endings aren't fireworks or dramatic speeches. Sometimes they're just silence. The house went up for auction a few weeks later. I didn't attend, but a neighbor from the old street sent me a photo. The front lawn overgrown, the windows shuttered. A sold sign staked in the ground. It looked nothing like home, and maybe that was the point. Because when I finally let go of the place I thought I was supposed to belong, I found peace in places I never expected, in morning coffee that didn't come with guilt, in nights without anxious phone calls, in weekends that were finally mine. And as for my family, they still tell people I abandoned them. But that's okay, because now, for the first time in my life, I don't need to explain myself to anyone. I'm finally free.